Hey, we're back. Dave Safransky's here. Come here, Dave. I actually, since we were talking about Rocky on the show,
Yes.
we today, as you obviously could tell, are the Polish Punisher and the Norwegian Stallion. You like that?
Yeah, I do like
I
that.
totally ripped out the Stallion thing, but the Polish Punisher.
The Polish Punisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People think boxing when they see us. Like they see me,
They,
they're like,
they think manly activity, chopping wood, things like that.
Yeah, they go-
driving tanks.
"Hey, Brian, are you a boxer? You look like a boxer." I get this all the time. It's unbelievable. I'll be like, "No, I'm sorry, I don't box. I'm a very peaceful man."
I'm into bodybuilding right now.
Yeah.
So
Powerlifting, you know. But we want to get Dave's take on something and your take on something. It is Pastor Appreciation Month. Yeah, pastors. Yeah. Thanks for the applause, guys. Pastors love it. You love pastors. I was the only one clapping for pastors.
When people talk here.
So,
I'll
If you
answer
want-
those questions that were.
you see this?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow,
You guys
that's
done?
messed up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're having a little meeting.
I don't know
We had
what's
a
going on.
sidebar.
I am being very
Sidebar.
unhelpful right now.
So, Pastor Appreciation Month, an article in Relevant Magazine. And here's how it goes. Those not entrenched in Christian culture don't know that the month of October is Pastor Appreciation Month.
Mm-hmm.
It's during this time that churches around the country offer, and they lavish praise, thanksgiving and honor on their pastors for being faithful preachers, patient listeners, gentle counselors. Their pastors have one of the hardest, most thankless jobs on the planet. Pastors are often expected to be theologians, small business gurus, advertising executives, social justice advocates, and brilliant communicators. Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, the communication part I think is important for a pastor. I don't know about the rest of it, but communicator I think is a relatively reasonable expectation.
Sure. Well, in contrast, my heart is grieved when I see pastors treated as hirelings whose continued employment is solely predicated on church growth and keeping the power base happy.
Mm-hmm.
Pastors swim in precarious waters and rarely do hear the words, and rarely do we hear the words pastor and appreciation in the same sentence. In short, Pastor Appreciation Month serves a purpose and appears to be here to stay. And while I myself am a pastor, I still believe Pastor Appreciation Month must die. Here are a few reasons why. Number one, church culture must change. And here they say, your pastor doesn't want a potluck. That doesn't make them feel appreciated. It only makes you feel validated. Ouch. If you want to appreciate your pastor, change the church culture. Give him ample vacation time with his family. Make sure your church gives a living wage. Create opportunity for healthy peer relationships. Don't over-meeting him. Give a book budget. Get him help. Send him to conferences. Blah, blah, blah.
If it was his list, he'd go over every single point slowly.
Also, a month of encouragement is not what pastors need. As the First Thessalonians says, we ask you, brothers, to respect those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you, to esteem them very highly in love because of their work. In other words, love them all year round. And they just say they think it's dumb to make it 1 month when it should be all the time. Are you convicted, Dave Safransky?
Well, I do think that people don't go to your pastor and say, Pastor, I just want to tell you how good my marriage is right now. Right? They go to the pastor and say, Pastor, if you don't intervene right now, my wife is kicking me out, or something like that. So they deal with a lot of the messy side of life because that's who we go to. We just, and I think it tends to be a weight on people over time because it's when you're dealing with other people's problems, sometimes you leave your own not to be dealt with. And I think it's hard for a pastor and his family, especially for kids of pastors. My wife is a pastor's kid, a PK, and she would tell you that early on there was a lot of meetings. Every night there were meetings, and it seemed like the last family that got dealt with sometimes was their family. Now,
Yeah.
That's from my wife's perspective. She was a child. But I think it is very difficult for pastors a lot of times. And it's very isolating because they feel like they have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So if they make a mistake, people say, and you're a pastor?
Right.
Yeah, I'm also a human. You know, those two can kind of coincide. So I think we do have to be very careful. But I think it's good to show appreciation for people. I like when we show appreciation for people.
By the way, Denver Yoder is with us, and he says, hi, Dave.
Hey.
Denver Yoder.
That was pretty cash, Dave.
Well, me and Denver are like,
You know Denver?
yeah, I think.
What?
Wow, that got awkward. You thought I was awkward.
That's
You're
weird.
supposed to be like, hey, Denver.
What's
Oh,
up?
Denver. Good to see you.
He is so weird.
He is weird.
Make him feel welcome, Dave.
I probably met Denver down in Amish country.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe at Kime Lumber.
In charm. We've got Deborah checking in from Eastlake. What's up, Deborah?
What's up, Deborah,
Sheila.
Callie, Adrian? Good morning, Adrian.
I know what you just thought.
Adrian! Yo, Adrian!
Denver, good morning.
I don't know.
And Deborah
it's, on
says,
Moody Radio, you know.
okay, guys. Deborah says, isn't this like Secretary Appreciation and all those others, like nurses, therapists, even Grandparents' Day? Then there's all the others. There's something, though, about pastors, and if we're like people of God, there's something about their career that I think we should care about because, it's a pastor by definition. You're like giving so much of your life
Mm-hmm.
and you're caring. Like, these are people that go to your hospital to visit you. They're pastoring you and your family. These are people that you can call and text when tragedy comes. I just think we should look at it differently than, oh, it's like Secretary Month. This isn't a career. This is a calling, and a lot of it is serving us. And we're quick to call on that serving.
What do you think of the comment, though, your pastor doesn't want a potluck? That doesn't make him feel appreciated. It only makes you feel validated. Is there something in the idea of Pastor Appreciation Month that's really not about the pastor at all, but it's about us patting ourselves in the back saying we care about our pastor?
Probably. I mean, it's easy. If we can find it to 1 month, then we have 11 months to not do it. So it kind of puts a focus on things. And there's a couple of guys at and I go to a small church. There's a couple of guys who always have kind of taken on the mantle of getting together some things for the pastor and collecting money and things like that so that we can get them a gift card or send them to a conference or whatever. But it was kind of funny because the list that the pastor put out about things that he would rather do, they were all getting away from the church. So he just, would you just get me away from here for just a little bit? So, but you know how you feel when you go on vacation, it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to make a phone call today.
No.
I don't even have to check my email if I don't want to. And I think pastors are no different. Pastors and their family need time away from the stress of running a church. And it's not like the stock market is at stake for a pastor. We're talking about people's lives.
Yeah.
We're talking about their family, their marriage, maybe their livelihood. There are so many things that people in church are dealing with, and the pastor is kind of that focal point of where we go to. So I do think that finding a way to get some rest and relaxation for your pastor and their family, just so they could be a family.
And be sure they have money to tip the cabana boy.
How do we make
This is
it?
very important.
Well, before we get to that, Janelle, I want to see if Dave can get the greeting right this time. Yvonne says, good morning all, and Armando.
Here you go.
So, Yvonne, say hello to Yvonne, Dave. Like you mean it.
Hey, Yvonne, I'm so glad you're here with us. And it warms my heart to have you listening today. It warms my heart.
Wow.
Was that good?
Your
enough?
cold heart.
Yeah. I like my coffee like my heart, dark and bitter.
Deborah says, is there a survey of pastors to see what they'd really like from us? I think the biggest way is to show our support of them all year long and be obedient to their teaching as long as it's biblical.
Listen, I don't think we need a survey because I've talked to enough people that here's what they say. How about a living wage? Like usually, and I hate to say this, but boards try to figure out how little can we possibly pay the pastor? And that there's some sort of vow of poverty that comes with the pastorate. Not true. I don't think you ought to have a mansion, but they should live a comfortable life.
What about the pastor that bought his wife that Lamborghini?
You see, that's a problem.
Why? He did it from his book revenues.
But a lot of pastors aren't doing that.
That's a whole different topic. I think
Yeah.
that's an appearances problem.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I love that car.
I want that car. Or pastors who don't get health care, or who are forced to be bivocational because the church is too stingy to pay them
Or maybe
enough
the
money.
church is small, and they can't afford to pay the pastor.
Well, but here's what I'd say. Even in a small church, you can make choices in your budget. Do you need to be donating to all these surrounding ministries when you're not even taking care of your pastor?
Mm-hmm.
So what if your only line item is the pastor's salary? Isn't that enough?
Well,
For a small church, I'm saying.
you do have to. I mean, God calls us to support. In the Old Testament, it was 10% of first fruits. That's a beginning place to give. And I think the place where you begin giving is at your home church. That's where you give. So once you've satisfied what you think you should give, and remember, 10% is the beginning. We don't live under the law. We don't have to bring the perfect lamb anymore to be sacrificed. We have the perfect lamb. So that law is dead. So the 10% is like a guideline.
Mm-hmm.
Where if we're falling under it, alarm bells should be going off. But I think you start giving at home, and then as you've met that need, what you feel God is calling you to give, then you branch out to other places.
Sarah is tuning in with her daughter next to her, Amanda. Good
Hey, Amanda.
morning. She
And
says,
Sarah.
Brian, that quote is
Stop.
pretty. That quote is pretty strong, but I do think it might have some truth. I think that every church can learn how to appreciate their pastor better. As a pastor's wife, it would be nice to feel appreciated sometimes.
Yeah.
And we get a great church. We have a great church family, but sometimes a little something extra is just nice.
And see,
They get overlooked a lot,
Oh,
and they
all the
do a whole lot.
for free.
Yeah.
And I need to get better at doing this, but I think the other thing to do if you want to appreciate your pastor is throughout the year at random times, prove to him that not only did you listen to the sermon, but a portion of it actually God used in your life. Text your pastor, email your pastor, say, hey, when God spoke to me in your message this week, when you said X, Y, and Z, thank you. You're making a difference.
Mm.
Because instead of just going, hey, great message, I really liked it. Oh, which part did you like? Well, the one about God, that part. I love that part. Because a lot of us, if you don't pay attention, they feel like they're standing up there just talking to people that don't do anything or don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that tangible, thank you, specific way God's using them in your life. I need to get better at doing this, but I think that's, if you're worried about the money part of it, fine, do that. Why not?
Yeah, cash is always good. Providing something for you, I like to give a grocery card to people because groceries are such a big part of everybody's life, and if you
Sure.
have kids, so. But I understand what you're saying. I like that. I think anybody, especially with somebody's life calling, and if they just sit there and they're talking like to a billboard of people, they're just sitting in, and everybody gets up and walks out at the end. It's nice to have a little positive feedback from your life's calling. So I like that idea. But I also like what you were saying, Janelle, when a pastor's wife, the family tends to get overlooked a lot because
yeah.
they get introduced as the pastor's wife. Well, no, I have a name. She has a name. Don't be afraid to use it. So I think helping them out, living wage, all good things. You don't need a survey. You have your pastor. Ask him, what do you need from us? What can we do? How can we help? And if they're in if they have relationships in the church that are really positive, and because not all people do. I mean, some people are really bad relationally,
Yeah.
and they don't know who to talk to, and they feel like, well, if I tell you what I need, then you're going to think I'm less than perfect. So they need somebody. They need a mentor also. They need somebody to. They're teaching to people. They're growing with people, but they need somebody that they could say, hey, look, I'm having a really tough time with this. So usually it's another pastor, but providing that space for them, I think, is very valuable also.
So Sarah's a pastor's wife. Thanks for that comment. Her daughter Amanda has a comment for us as well. She wants to be sure we don't forget pastors' kids. Remember them. So
PKs.
cash gifts, toys, cars, things for the pastor's children, right?
Cars.
Yeah, right? Right, Amanda?
Might
Come
be a
on.
little heavy duty, but
Brand new toys, frequently high fives, candy.
Candy's all right.
The
I love
pastor's
candy.
kid.
Love candy.
I think it's also too spreading the burden, and we've talked about this before in terms of not putting all the expectation on a pastor. So having like a team of people that can do some of the caring. Remember how we've talked about the first person you think of texting if you're at the hospital is your pastor. Like, can you think of a deacon or an elder to kind of spread out the burden, because a lot falls on a pastor in terms of ways to care for them throughout the year. Deborah says, I know pastors who get together to support each other because they do need each other. That's great.
Sheila's got a good question. What's the definition of a living wage? Like David said before, some people with large incomes make poor spending decisions. So what's a good base rate for a pastor? That's impossible, isn't it? Based on, so there's so many factors. What's the community? What's the average income in the community?
Well, we have, you could see based on your county what the poverty wage is for that county for a family of 4 or
Okay.
however big their family is. So it should be something higher than that. Depending.
Like a lot higher?
I'm sorry?
A lot higher?
Well, within reason.
Why not find the average income in your county
Yeah, that's
and make
better.
that the pastor's salary?
It could be one way that you do things. There's a lot of different ways for you to pay a pastor. I don't know that there's a one right answer to that because it depends on the church and the
income
pastor
of the congregants, you're saying?
yeah,
Like, yeah.
yeah. If you have a very poor church,
Yeah.
it's going to be very difficult to provide a wage. So if you go to Appalachia, for instance, a lot of people there are still out of work. And
But that's why my idea of average income is very brilliant. Wouldn't you say, Dave?
Brilliant.
Brilliant?
well, I
Oh,
don't,
no, because
I
I
don't
think
know that
what-
I'd use that word.
There's average ideas and brilliant ideas. Brilliant.
What he's saying is, though, if the congregants
I'm
don't
so
make,
sorry.
don't I
So
know,
sorry.
if the congregants don't make average income, how can they provide average income to the pastors?
I don't know. Work
If
harder.
they're
I
at
don't-
poverty level,
Well,
So perhaps it becomes an average of the congregational income.
yeah,
I think one of the things, especially as we see an improving economy with much lower unemployment rates, is that maybe there's a better opportunity to pay people like a pastor, where in the past we haven't had that opportunity because unemployment's been higher. So as our job market, as the economy gets better here, perhaps we can reevaluate those things as a church and say, look, everybody's employed. And you know, the average giving though for a Christian right now is about 3% of their income. And so some of it is we just got to start at home and say, are you giving?
yeah.
Are you
Giving anything,
giving? Yeah, are you giving anything? And some people say, well, I go to church here once a month or whatever. Well, okay, you need to go more than that. And if you're going to go to church or if you're going to get fed there, we should be giving there and not just what's left over. This is a plan that you put in your budget. This is a line item for your budget. We as Christians, we have to be giving. You can't ask other people to give if you're not doing it yourself.
Now, a very important point was brought up, Dave, and I've drawn a conclusion from it I'd like to share with you. Amanda, the pastor's kid, was giggling at my comments. Therefore, she thought they were funny. Ergo, kids think I'm funny. Kids today are entertained.
Well, a 13-year-old girl is going to laugh at anything. I mean,
That's not
they're,
true.
they're
You haven't been
the-
around 13-year-old girls enough, obviously. Dave, kids today think I'm hip and happening, don't you think?
Yes.
Huh, Amanda?
They're very hip and happy.
Hip. Like, is he in high school? She's wondering. No, I'm actually a dad.
More like hipster doofus.
Mr. Doofus.
I'm
My
surprised
kids
you
are right
don't-
with that.
You don't have a man bun. Why don't you have a man bun? I mean, that would it be the total ensemble if Brian came in here, skinny jeans, untucked plaid shirt, the beard thing,
Yeah.
and the man bun.
I would be so good at that I don't want to intimidate the other hipsters.
And what about that knit hat that the man
When I walk into the high
kind of
school,
hangs over to the side?
Oh yeah, that would look good.
Yeah.
when I walk into the high school with my daughter, I'll lean over to her and go, "Do you think I ought to they're gonna think I'm a student. I need to pass or something."
Oh my goodness.
We
Are you-
could they make fake man buns. I thought about buying one, which I think would be really funny.
Yeah.
But on Amazon, you could get a fake man bun.
Yeah.
You should definitely have one.
I need more plaid. It's a
Kinda weird.
deficiency. Yeah. So anyway, someone exactly right again, Dave. Careful, don't encourage him too
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
I think bottom line though is we ought to make sure that we don't make Pastor Appreciation Month a fleeting thing that we do that ultimately validates us and not actually shows appreciation of the pastor. I think anybody who gets a chance to serve on any sort of board at church of any consequence ought to make it a point to re-examine pastor salary, compare it to data you have available to average salaries in the area to be sure they're cared for year round in that way. Extra gifts now and then, candy and toys for the kids. You know, give the
Amanda.
Yep, Amanda, especially Amanda.
Especially anybody named Amanda.
Yeah, she gets extra stuff for being a pastor's
Yeah.
kid. We got to take care of them all year round. Which reminds me that when again is Radio Host Appreciation Month? I mean, it really shouldn't be a month. It should be every day.
You,
Should
Brian.
be every day.
Really,
Oh.
guys, every day. Janelle,
No.
Can we
gift
read
cards,
my disclaimer for Brian right now.
Brian.
lunch.
That is so Brian. What about me?
Yeah.
What? So
Everybody
you want-
else gets a month.
Okay, so let's make the list. Gift cards. What else we want?
No, why don't we get a month, Janelle?
We should.
Why don't
We
we get a month?
definitely should, yes.
I want a month.
I feel like I'm being
Wow.
harassed here. Like
That's crazy.
if I don't have the right answer, I won't be on next week.
Which month can I have, Dave?
How about February?
Why?
February.
That's my birthday month. I don't want that. I want a
This
different
is
month.
shortest month, so here, take it.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't you
yes.
pick the longest one, tough guy?
March.
Wow. Thanks
Some
a lot.
months have 28 days.
30 days has September.
Oh, guys.
June. Anywho, we better get out of here.
Yeah.
Take care of your pastor. Say thanks
See
to
ya,
him.
Amanda.
Amanda says she's 11. She wanted you to know that.
That's even worse.
But
Amanda.
she's
You
flattered
shouldn't have told me
that you thought she was 13. And again, also the other conclusion today would be that kids today think I'm funny.
11-year-old girls laugh at anything. They're
It's not
like,
true. Amanda, don't listen to him. We know. Just give me a call. I can go hang out with your friends and be the funny guy.
Wow, Deborah's your girl. She said yes, especially radio people who get up way early and those who work during the night.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Financial
confused.
advisors don't need a month.
Deborah
They've got
is
plenty of months.
confused. Very confused.
No, she's brilliant actually.
We
And
need to
Fred
get
was
her
the
help.
one that said he got in trouble with his wife. He said, I hope I didn't offend you about the budget thing. He was just letting
Offend
go.
me.
He
You're gonna have
tried-
to work a little harder, bro.
Yeah.
I've been offended by the best and walked out laughing. So.
And I
Oh.
think Dave actually enjoyed that he got you in trouble.
Oh, goodness.
So don't worry about offending. All right, are we out?
Yeah. Hasta luego.
Peace.
Follow up Friday. See you tomorrow.